Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with lead generation specialist and strategist Mark Newsome. He is known as Mr. Marketing, and he specializes in helping small to mid-sized business owners and service providers uncover and monetize. This is done with what was once considered dead assets or resources. In addition, they discover how to strategically increase their long-term gross front and back-end profits. His story of vision and positivity is very refreshing. Enjoy this story.
Is that
How
cool?
you doing?
Everything's good, man. Nice to meet you. Where you coming out of?
Likewise, out of the big state of Texas. How about you?
Oh, cool. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, right in the middle of the map.
Oh, man. Okay, I wasn't sure if you're in the States or not. All right.
Yeah. So where you at in Texas?
A little town, Joe, south of Dallas. Your living room is probably bigger than the town. It's called Gilmer. I'm a recent transplant, man. I had some serious health issues about a year and a half ago, and I relocated here to be with some family members.
Okay, cool. Well,
Hey, I'm on the up and up in recovery, my friend.
sounds like it. It looks like it too. So we will cover all of that, and I would love to begin our journey into your life by asking you first and foremost. I know we're all getting a little tired of talking about COVID, but it was such a big deal to survive that pandemic and get through it. There was a lot of things that changed. So ultimately, how did you get through the pandemic, and how has it affected the way that you live life today?
Well, you know what? I don't know how many times you've heard this spin. My friend, I actually, unbeknownst to me, until I went to the emergency room, I had COVID.
Wow.
And here's the funny thing. I like to say it like this. I had the Mike Tyson version of COVID, of Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones Jr., not the COVID Mike Tyson that knocked out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds. Thank goodness.
Yeah. That so actually, with the way that you lived your life, how did that happen? How did those things kind of transpire? How did it change your outlook and all of those kinds of things?
Well, Joe, I don't know about you, but I'm up there in age, and it makes you, at least it made me, really come to grips with my morality, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to be here forever. And you sort of put things off until you can't. And finding out that I had that and survived it has given me more of I don't want to say it ignited a fire, but I think it really helped me kind of crystallize and prioritize. I think that's the word I'm looking for, of whatever time I have left here. What things do you want to be involved in that are going to give you the most meaning? Not necessarily monetarily, right? But going to give you the most lasting meaning. And that, I think, this last part of my journey, I think, has really become the priority for me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So let's get into the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis here in 2024. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade schoolers. It's career day. Let's say third graders. And one of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I help small, I would normally say non-franchise, but I'm just going to really condense it down, Joe. I help small business owners and service providers find their hidden assets and monetize them. And I try to sound mysterious, so if they have any inclination to want to take this conversation part me further, they can. And if they don't, we don't have to.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I'm sorry, what was what?
When you were in the third grade, what was your dream to grow up and become?
When I was where?
In the third grade, when you were a child in grade school?
What about it?
So when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. I wasn't sure. I said, is he saying what I think he's saying? When I was a kid, I don't know, Joe, but I knew it had something to do with creativity. I mean, not so much I want to do my own thing, creativity, but just sort of whatever I was involved in, I always just seemed to had a yearning to delve a little deeper. In fact, I don't know if you're old enough. Do you remember a toy called the Etch-a-Sketch?
Oh,
or am
yeah.
I dating myself?
Yeah.
You remember the Etch-a-Sketch?
Absolutely, I do. Yes.
And I love that thing because there was no end to the possibilities, right?
Yeah.
And there was no right and wrong. You just took the thing and you worked it. And I think growing up and finally realizing this whole marketing thing, Joe, as far I know you already know this, and probably your audience does too, but the possibilities are far beyond A, credit, B, your current budget. None of that really has anything to do with connections and creativity. It's a currency that just is evergreen as far as I'm concerned.
So take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were some of the foundational elements, the seeds that were planted into you that have turned into helping business owners find their way and to become who you are today?
Oh, it's excellent. I grew up, ladies and gentlemen, in Oakland, California. And I can remember the turbulent, Joe, I'm sure you remember too, the turbulent 60s. But my mom, I just have to say, man, probably the same with you. She and my grandparents on my mother's side were the biggest influences of my life because they taught us, you hear this in marketing all the time, put the customer's needs above your own. But she really raised all of us, my brothers and sister. I recently lost my oldest brother, unfortunately, but they raised us to know and understand it's just better to give than to receive. But we both know, Joe, that when you do give the right way, you most definitely receive, right?
Yeah, for sure. So who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you in your life?
Well, again, I'm going to say my mom, my grandfather on her side. I really, other than sports, icons and all that, but the people that, really matter in my life, not, people that you worship from afar, but I would have to say my mom because she kept me grounded. And, to a certain extent later on in my life, she remarried my stepfather, but I would just have to say my mother because she never stopped believing in all of our potentials, and she never stopped encouraging us to be the best people we could be, regardless of your status or lack of status in life. Just treat people, the golden rule, Joe. Treat people right the way you expect and want them to treat you. And that man, I'm telling you what, in fact, oh, Joe, let me share this with your audience. And I hope I'm not dating myself. Joe, do you remember a Saturday morning cartoon show for kids called HR Puff and Stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Man, I love their theme song, but there was one line in that song, ladies and gentlemen. If you go to YouTube, I'm sure you could find the trailer for it. But anyway, the guy said, "Can't do a little because I can't do enough." That sums it up to me. That's what being a serious, proactive, service-minded based entrepreneur and a human being to that extent is all about. There is just never a shortage of quality things to do and way to serve. Could you agree with that?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating or that you would be interested to see how they live or ask them some questions, who would that be?
Oh man, I'm now people going to really be turned off. Joe, Marcus Lemonis, the prophet, and not because of the money aspect. This guy is connected to, excuse me, business. And let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, businesses are people. And when you get exposed to that many different type of lives, and in his case, he invests in some of these businesses and help them grow. Some of them don't work out, but you're still being exposed to so much human connectivity. Man, I just would have 1,000 questions for that guy. I really would.
So, what is the motivation for you every day to get up and do the work that you do? You're giving a lot of yourself to your clients, but you also have to hold back and evolve as a human yourself. What is that collective gas in your tank every day?
Well, you know what, Joe? Probably like you, I'm a pretty avid reader, but I will be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I don't read like a wide variety of stuff. But when I'm reading books or listening, to audiobooks, is trying to discover different levels of being the best I can be without losing my authenticity. I don't know if that makes sense, but what I'm striving to do for whatever time I got left here, Joe, I want to figure out how can I have the most positive impact on the people that I'm trying to impact. And so that journey, man, that passion, when I get up, like you and I had been planning this right for a while. The audience doesn't know that, but man, I have been so psyched and so pumped and just so waiting for this conversation to take place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight and you ran into a much younger version of you, an 18-year-old version of you, you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you gained along the way. What advice would you give your younger self?
Well, so unfortunately, Joe, we don't have enough time, so I'm just going to give you the short, condensed version. I would tell that egomaniac to remember that there's a reason the good Lord gave us two ears and one mouth, and that's the ratio that I should learn to use both.
Yeah. So of everything that you've done in your life and everything that you've accomplished, what are you the proudest of?
You know what? This is going to sound hard to believe, but about many years ago, I met a gentleman at I spoke at a conference. And as a direct result of an article I published in this newsletter for the conference, a gentleman out of the blue, Joe, wrote me a letter. And he said, Mark, I want to thank you because as a direct result of what I learned, listen to me now, in your article, I added 7 figures, pardon me, to my real estate portfolio. He never elaborated on how he did it. To this day, I don't know how he did it, but that shows me, ladies and gentlemen, when you and I move in the right direction, you have no idea the mountains you can help move, the influence you can have, the positive impact you can have on someone's life. And by the same token, the trigger effect, Joe, right? Look at the lives that improved, not only for him, his family, and the people he's involved in. To me, that is just mind-boggling.
Absolutely. So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone around you. They have this idea of who they think you are, but you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that, Joe.
Everybody has an idea of who they think you are, but ultimately you lead the march. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I hope I'm a guy who's smart enough to know I'm not the smartest guy in the room and that there's plenty of room to grow. And that's what I'm about is growth. So I hope that my brand, when I'm not around, is they say, this guy's a good listener. And from the listening, that can open or swing the hinge of the door of opportunity wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone out there wants to learn more, reach out, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
2 places, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, thank you for that opportunity, Joe. Two
Yes,
places,
sir.
ladies and gentlemen. Online, you can come to my online house, my blog, UYOU canmarketonlinenow.com. If you're an entrepreneur, a service-based business, a retailer, particularly non-franchise, or let's get connected on the world's largest, most effective, impactful B2B and B2C platform currently on the planet, LinkedIn. You can reach me there at linkedin.com/IN/ask, ASK, Mark, A-M-R-K, Newsome, N-E-W-S-O-M-E.
Wonderful. Mark, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Hey, thank you, my friend. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.